Finance officials from the G7 nations are moving towards an agreement on a U.S. proposal to use frozen Russian assets to support Ukraine. The money will be used to help Ukraine's public finances as its economy struggles to cope with Russia's invasion. But as David Garrett reports, the two-day conference wrapped up in Italy without total agreement.
US President Joe Biden's administration has already been approved by Congress to seize roughly $5 billion in Russian assets located in America. It's thought there is 60 times that frozen in Europe. More than $300 billion has been seized since Russia invaded Ukraine. So, with Janet Yellen on the shores of Lake Maggiore in Italy for a G7 finance meeting, there was a push for Western allies to follow suit. The most important subject is how Russian frozen assets can support Ukraine. Hosting Italian finance chief Giancarlo Giorgetti said, without giving much away, no exact figures were mentioned. It's not just about how to utilise those assets, he said. European leaders especially are grappling with whether it's right to outright confiscate funds and give the money straight to Ukraine. Progress, but nothing finalised yet, Giorgetti continues. There are technical and legal issues. Ukraine's finance minister joined the G7 finance ministers and central bank heads at their concluding session on Saturday and made this comment.
The proposals you are describing is quite easy to implement. Even if you are talking about utilizing of proceeds, future proceeds from frozen Russian assets. If there are general agreement of G7 nations, I believe there are no obstacles to implement it.
The ministers have put in the financial framework for a possible announcement when presidents and prime ministers convene in southern Italy in June. The official line is, despite progress, a final decision will rest with G7 leaders, including US President Joe Biden. European countries are concerned such a move could elicit an angry Russian response. Vladimir Putin, who has been visiting Belarus and Uzbekistan in recent days, has already signed a decree allowing the confiscation of the assets of US companies in Russia in a tit-for-tat move. The US says Chinese low-price goods threaten global business and have put heavy tariffs on items like electric cars. Washington used these talks to encourage G7 finance ministers to do much more to curb China's state-backed productions. Yellen did not call for partners to implement similar tariffs, but did ask for a wall of opposition. On imposing their own charges, G7 nations had differing views. In Beijing, the Foreign Ministry said earlier that US claims of overcapacity, accusations that China is stockpiling supply to outweigh demand, is in contrary to the laws of economics, with the US guilty of protectionism. David Garrett, TVB News.